Hello, Africa. Welcome to ETV Ghana's African Women's Voices show. This is the show that tackles issues pertaining to women as they contribute to national development. How have you been? I have missed you so much, and I am excited about Ghana's game. Ghana won their match against South Korea, and we're looking forward to another win on Friday against Uruguay. However, I'm sure you're wondering why I'm wearing a t-shirt today. I'm wearing this t-shirt because the African Legends Night, the best of the best event for the year that is powered by Global Media Alliance, is kicking off on Friday. So we are hoping that after we celebrate the Black Stars, we get to dance and celebrate them in grand style at the Grand Arena. If you haven't purchased your tickets, please log on to www.africanlegendsnight.com to purchase your tickets. If you also want to do that on ground, please go to Global Media Alliance office at around Jowulu Airport West. You can purchase your ticket there, or you go to Silverbird Cinemas or to Airport Shell. These three places will give you access to the tickets, or you just go online to the website to get your ticket for yourself. It's really running fast, and if you don't hasten up, you could miss it. And you don't want to be told about how the performance of Rexoma, Efia, Samini, Amachi Dede, and the many other surprises. You don't want to be told about it. I will be there, and I look forward to seeing you. Globally, we are talking 16 days of activism. And that's what we're going to be talking about on our 60 Seconds update. We'll introduce it, after which I introduce my guest to you. Today, we have a room packed with women. Some will be joining us via Zoom, and others and we have one person within the studio. So I need you to fasten your seatbelts because we're going to have a very smooth ride. But first, hear what we've got to say about 16 days of activism. The 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is an annual campaign that begins on 25th November, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and runs through International Human Rights Day on 10th December. More than 1 in 3 women experience gender-based violence during their lifetime. In 2021, nearly 1 in 5 women aged 20 to 24 were married before turning 18. Less than 40% of women who experience violence seek help of any sort. Violence against women and girls remains the most pervasive human rights violation around the world. Already heightened by the COVID-19 pandemic, its prevalence is now being further increased by the intersecting crisis of climate change, global conflict, and economic instability. This 16 days, ETV Ghana's African Women's Voices show is encouraging everyone to get involved, from amplifying the voices of survivors and activists to supporting women's organizations and strengthening feminist movements. We can all act to empower survivors, reduce and prevent violence against women and girls, and protect women's rights. Ending violence against women is everyone's business, whether you are a seasoned activist or just getting started. And you are welcome back to ETV Ghana's African Women's Voices show. And tonight we are going to be discussing with 7 beautiful and intelligent women who have decided to share their story to inspire other women and even gentlemen, because the stories are really good ones. They wrote a book together, and that is actually what has gotten me interested in their project. A lot of times people say women cannot collaborate. Women are always pulling each other down. They can't do anything together without quarreling. I would really want to understand how these women who are spread across the globe were able to get themselves to share their stories and put together one book. The book is entitled African Women Who Inspire. And when I went through the book, I really understood the reason why they gave it that name, because the stories are all inspirational. I am not going to take so much of your time. I'm going to introduce them to you, and we kick off with the conversation. I'll start from in-house. With me in the studio is Dr. Rosemond Abuaje. Welcome to African Women's Voices show.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Great. Now we are going to be joined by the other ladies via Zoom, who are already actively online waiting to hear me say hello. Hello, ladies. Can we see you? Okay, great. Gracie. Gracie, can you say hello to us?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can
we
you hear
can
me?
hear you. We can hear you. And Dr.
Okay,
Linda, are you there?
okay.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Nice. Aladia, are you there?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity.
Great, great. Do we have Tunisia there?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for a wonderful opportunity.
Great. Beautiful Dr. Gallo, are you there?
Hi, good evening, everybody from a beautiful South Africa. Really excited to be here with you all. Thank you so much.
Amazing. I hope I haven't missed anyone. I think I've been able to get everyone on board. Shermin, please, let's see you.
Hi, everyone. I am so delighted to be sharing on this occasion all the way from Trinidad and Tobago.
Tobago. Thank you, Shermin. Ladies, we are excited to also have this conversation with you. Just before we went on the commercial break, we talked about 16 days of activism and what it meant, and how African Women's Voices Show is encouraging everyone to ensure that they end violence against women. It's everyone's business. It's not just the business of women to keep talking about it. We need the men and everyone to join us in this conversation. So since we are talking 16 days activism, I really admired some of the chapters that had something to do with domestic violence. And I'd like to start with you, Dr. Lindago. Dr. Lindago, so I'll be asking you this question. My first question to you is, how does one who has gone through domestic violence bounce back?
Hello. Again, thank you for having me here. For anyone that's wondering if it's possible for someone that's gone through domestic violence to bounce back, again, the statistics are there. Anybody can bounce back. I use myself as an example. It's difficult. It's not an easy journey. Like I would like to say that it's not, but it's a process. And once you start the process, for any journey, it begins with little steps. It begins with a step of just one step, one day at a time. And I want to say that for this journey, everybody's journey is not the same. For me, I don't have to think my own journey will be as fast as Dr. Gallo or Dr. Shermin or Tanzania's own. Everybody has their own journey. And you just, first of all, the first thing I tell everybody, you have to forgive yourself. Because for me personally, one of the things that, that stood out for me was the shame of domestic violence. Coming from a third world nation where domestic violence is not really understood, nobody believes it. You're being gaslighted when you start to talk about it. I had to deal with first forgive yourself and move on and see the brighter side of life. Broken crayons can still color. I tell anybody that. So if broken crayons can still color, you try to pick up your life from the brokenness of where it is. So once I've forgiven myself, because you can't give what you don't have. Once you've forgiven yourself, then it's a first step to forgive your abuser and then move forward and do things and look for ways to help you. The first journey I tell someone is speak about it. Coming from a third world nation where we're not allowed to speak, express ourselves, we're supposed to carry everything inside, it's difficult, but that's one of the things I learned. Find someone to speak with, find a counselor, find a coach, find someone to speak with that can listen to you. And that's one of the first steps I did. Looked for someone that could talk to me. Of course, I was in a church. Church did not really understand what domestic violence and counseling was all about. But I was able to get someone. So when you forgive yourself, find someone that you can speak with, then look for ways on how you can heal. Because it depends on what kind of domestic violence you went through. If you went through psychological pains, nobody see the pain. Nobody sees the scar. Nobody sees the broken arm and the broken legs. But psychological pains, they take time to heal. So you need someone to help you through that healing process. So you can go through, I did prayers, meditation, I did visualization and affirmation. All those things were things I did. And I tell people that look at support system around you. Domestic violence hotline, they have support system. Look for someone that has gone through. First of all, I thought there was nobody that had gone through. I thought I was the only one. I thought I'm the only one that I knew that went through. But when I started looking out of my environment, I saw ministers, I saw people that like Joyce Meyer, I saw prominent people that had gone through domestic violence and how they've been able to bounce back. And I told myself, wow, if these people can bounce back, then I can bounce back. And I looked at other projects that I've done in my life that were challenging too. And I was able to forge through. So I told myself, if you're able to do for example, your MBA program with all the struggle, with all the work, then you can bounce back. It wasn't easy, but I'm here and I'm flourishing and I'm thriving. Thank you.
Wow, fantastic. You really have bounced back, because even from your voice, you can really tell that you're free, you're happy, and you're enjoying life to the fullest. Now, I'll be going over to you, Aladia. Aladia, I would really be happy to hear your experience around this issue. Can you share your experience with us?
So my experiences with gender-based violence had actually started when I was a very young age. I was 15 years old, and it actually stemmed from me having a very low self-esteem and, seeking attention and love. And coming from a household where I was the eldest, I was actually made to grow up earlier than I was supposed to. So from the early age of 9, I was already taking care of my siblings. And because of that, and stepping into that almost adult position, when I was on the outside, I was seeking attention. And even though I was really bright at school and doing well and excelling in all areas, I was still missing something, and that was just attention. So when, a few of the guys at school had asked me to do their homework and stuff, and I agreed to do it. And from there, it just started. And even though I was being used to do their work, to me, it was good attention because of my self-esteem being so low. And that ended up in me actually dating one of the guys, and the abuse started from a very early age when I was just 16 years old. But I didn't say anything about it, and I pursued the relationship. We moved on. A few years later, we got married, and the abuse just continued, and I kept quiet for a long time. I didn't tell anyone until the signs became visible, where it could then be seen. But even then, I always lied about it, and the only people that actually knew were my parents. And when you at that age and you're coming from a household where you had your mom, you had your dad together for all your life, you think you've got to just go through this, because as women we want to keep our families. And I know that was the biggest mistake that I made, because if I had known then what I know now, I would have rather left the relationship and taken care of my children on my own. Because now when I look back after having left, and the scars that we all are left with, it's not easy to move on from it. Just like Dr. Linda has said, it's a process, and it's a continued process, because you go through emotional abuse and physical abuse and spiritual and financial. I experienced abuse in every single form of life. And now it's hard for me to actually, sometimes I have really bad days where I think that something's just going to go wrong. I feel really scared sometimes. And it's not an easy process when you have gone through so many years, because I lived through it for more than 20 years, thinking that he's going to change and I can fix him and I can heal him when I wasn't healing myself. And it got to a point where at one stage I became an abuser, because I had to actually defend myself, because the physical abuse was getting so much that I had to actually stand up for myself. And after the first time that I threw the first punch, I actually asked myself, like, is this who you really are? And still then I just continued thinking that, you know, things are going to change. And if you help someone financially, and if you be nice and you be kind and you do everything that is expected of you, you know, this person's going to change. But you just see it getting worse. And when the physical abuse had stopped, the emotional abuse got really bad, you know, to the point where I tried to end my life many times. And, you know, I was just fortunate in 2021, December, I was asked to speak at a shelter. And that day when I was standing up there and speaking to the ladies at the shelter, I thought to myself, you know, you can't be doing this if you yourself are going through abuse. And how can you go back home to your abuser? And that was the turning point for me. That day I left the shelter, I came home, packed a bag, and I left. And that was the turning point in my life. And I have to say that the past 11 months have been the best 11 months of my life. I have flourished. I'm healing myself. I'm building better relationship with my children. I have done so much more in these 11 months than I've done in the 20 years that I was actually married. And, you know, I was saying to someone the other day that now when I walk, I no longer feel like I'm walking. I'm actually bouncing, and I have my confidence back. You know, I no longer go into a room and wonder, like, is someone looking at me, or how am I looking, or will someone judge me? You know, I have my confidence back. And I'm so grateful to God for the journey, because even though I went through what I did go through, I know that God had to use me as an instrument, because now I'm able to share my story and help other women. So that was a journey that was meant for me, and I'm grateful for it because it helped me. It's now me sharing my pain is going to lessen my pain, and it's going to help other women and give them the strength that they need to be able to walk out of these relationships.
Wow. Fantastic story. This book, African Women That Inspire, is a very good book, and it's going to be launched very soon. We're going to give you the details of how the launch is going to go. We've heard from Dr. Linda and also now heard from Aladia. I'd like to go over to the project coordinator, the one who actually thought about putting this book and the stories of different women together. Gracie, are you there? I'd like to really understand what the vision was when you were thinking about this particular project, because it's so relevant. I'm sure you were not even thinking around 16 days of activism, but see how relevant some of the stories within it are actually, you know, making the day. So it's really good. What was your vision when you were putting this together?
Hi, everyone, and hello from the United States of America. I can't wait to get back to Ghana very soon. Thank you so much, Eunice, for this opportunity to share. You know, so I guess 2016, I received a phone call from my boss to come into a meeting. And in that meeting, I was told that I'm part of 200 people who are going home on that day. So it happened that I lost my high-profile banking job to redundancy. And I remember driving home on that day, not knowing where I was going, but I was going home. And the question that was ringing so loud in my mind was, Grace, what is next for you? I came back home, and one day, as I was lying on my bed, looking at the ceiling fan turning, it was so gloomy and darkness for me. I felt so disappointed in myself that I was not able to achieve my dream as a young girl who ran away from home so that I could attend a university, get a good job. You know how we all feel about this. And then finally share my story of how women should not allow anything to stop them from pursuing their dreams. And so when I lost a job, I lost a dream. I finally decided to start something on my own, to start my own entrepreneurial journey. And after some few months, I started my first business. I started my second business again. And then after a year and a half after losing my job, I wrote my first book, I Kissed My Job Goodbye. And then when I started sharing my story of how I was able to lose a job and now starting my own job and helping other women to also start something on their own, even while they are working after losing a job. I remember one day I was interviewed at a radio station in Ghana, a very popular radio station. And in that interview, I had over 80 calls after the interview of people who have lost their jobs and they didn't know what to do with their lives. And so from there, I realized the power of how stories or inspiration can transform the lives of people. And so what I do now is that I am a personal development and business coach. And so I help African women see the value in their experience, their expertise, their skills, their giftings. And for me, I believe that a lot of women out there have stories that will transform the world. But one of the things that is stopping us is that the thought of not good enough, and I have been able to overcome it. So I decided to do this book to bring other women who have inspiring stories that will transform the world. And from a point, coming from that point of where I wrote my first book, and that first book was able to liberate a lot of people from that mindset of if I lose a job, that's the end of my life, and they were able to transform, start something on their own. I believe so much that a book with inspirational stories can transform the life of the author themselves and the lives of the people that are even going to write the book. And there are lots of women out there with stories such as Aladia, such as Dr. Linda, and the ones you're about to hear. But that thought of not good enough, that thought of, I can't stand in front of people, I don't know what to say. And as a personal development coach, it's my duty to help these women come out of their fear and their shame to be able to share their story. And that's what led me to bring together these amazing women for us to put this book together. And the stories that go out there is supposed to inspire people not to give up on themselves, especially in times that we have been through 2.5 years. We have all been under COVID. We came out of COVID. We went into economic crisis and all that. People need lessons to navigate through life. And there are lots of women out there who have stories such as. So that's why we put this book together. Fantastic. To inspire women, to inspire people to have hope, to navigate through difficult moments of life. This was my life 6 years ago when I lost my high-profile banking job to redundancy. Wow. So basically, that's what I will share. Yeah.
Thank you
That's
so
what
much.
led me to put the book, the
thanks to you.
Together. Yeah, thank you.
I'm getting the chance to actually hear from these very wonderful women who are inspiring us through the book. Now I am coming over to the studio and I have Dr. Rosemond Aboagye here with me. She's also part of the authors of the book. And I'd like to actually look at the aspect of her journey where she talked about how her faith helped her through her journey. You know, when Dr. Linda was talking about how one can bounce back after domestic violence, she talked about using words of affirmation, using prayers or meditation and other things. In her own case, as she was going through her journey, her faith played a very big role. So if you could just take us through a little bit of your journey and how your faith played a role there.
Thank you very much. So in writing this book, one of the things I wanted to put out there was the sovereignty of God and the fact that sometimes in very unlikely circumstances, he comes through for us and then he leads us from that place of obscurity to a place of purpose where we can impact the life of other people. So in my journey, there were many, many times where I came to the bank of the river of despair and hopelessness, and there was nothing to, hold on to, just my faith. And each time I got to that point, God came through for me. And it wasn't once, it wasn't twice, it was many, many times. And you can tell that this is not chance. You can't be so lucky so many times. There has to be a God out there who is looking out for you, who believes in your dream that you have, who has a purpose for you beyond what you were born by your parents to achieve. And so for me, for example, when I was in JHS, things were really bad, and at a point I thought I couldn't even go to secondary school. I remember when I was preparing for my BC, I used to sell kinky in the evenings at Latebi Okoshi, and I had a mate who would come to me in the evenings after extra classes, and she would teach me what she had been taught in extra classes. And then one day her dad came and was like, "You can't sit by this kinky seller, no. I won't allow it, so don't ever come teach her again." And a few months after, she called me to her home. Her mom used to work in WAEC, and so her mom was like, let your friend come and have her results. And when I got to her house, her dad was there. And he was like, isn't that the Kinky Seller's daughter? And his daughter was like, yeah, it is. And how did she get so many ones? And that was the day I learned that it did not matter what other people thought of me. Once I believed in God, that he was able to help me even in the most difficult of situations, and I did my best, I'll be able to make it. And so in secondary school, God came through for me once again. When I went for my first term in Form 1, everybody was happy, my fees was paid, and I went. But second term, I remember my dad telling me, you can't go to school. There's no money, so you have to stay home. And I told my dad, I'm not going to stay home. God says he's going to help me to become a doctor. And so I'm going to go back to school. And so that day I went to school with nothing, just enough money to take me to Cape Coast, and then I walked the rest of the way to Ghana National College. And in the middle of that term, I was sent home for fees. And I asked myself, if I go home, what's going to happen to me? My mom probably doesn't even have what she's going to eat that day. And so I decided to go to my dad all the way in Konongo. And from Cape Coast to Konongo was a new journey for me. I had to go through Kumasi. When I got to Kumasi, there was even no bus. The last bus was full. And I had to plead with the people on the bus to let me on because I didn't know where to stay in Kumasi. And that week, when I got to my dad's place, I spent about 4 days eating seed yams because there was even no food to eat. And after 4 days, my mother brought borrowed money and I went back to school. And that same term, God came through for me because he sent an angel in the form of an institution, and that is International Central Gospel Church. They awarded me a scholarship, and that took me through secondary school. So for the rest of my time in Ghana National, I didn't have to worry about who was going to pay my fees, and I was able to study and excel. I remember in secondary school, I was part of the Brilliant Science and Maths Quiz squad then, and we got to the quarterfinals for the very first time. So I did well in school. Despite all that was going on around me, God gave me that grace to be able to excel. And I was able to gain admission to University of Ghana. And even then, I had challenges. And somewhere along the line, an uncle of mine came and he was like, I'm going to pay your fees through uni. So just do your best for me. And I remember my first year, I didn't have accommodation, and I used to sleep in the Mensa Sabbath dining hall every night, and then in the morning I would go to where my things were in somebody's room. I would bath, go to lectures, and then in the evening I would go back to Mensa Sabbath hall. I would have group discussions. Then when everybody left, I would sleep in the dining hall. And it was like that until I finally got my own accommodation. So there were so many difficult times, so many times when I came to that point where if God had not sent somebody my way to break through for me, I didn't have any hope. And it continued like that until I finally became what God had ordained me to be. And so if you read my story, you would see all the close calls, and you would believe that indeed there is a God who rules in the affairs of men.
Wow.
And aligns our destinies for us.
So that explains how come when you wrote the book, you went to present it to Pastor Mensa Otabil.
Yes, please, yes. He played a very significant role, apart from the scholarship that Central offered to me, the teachings I got from Dr. Mensa Otabil and several men of God.
On the screen.
Yeah, thank you very much. From Dr. Mensa Otabil and many, many other men of God in this country and elsewhere. They really shaped my faith and my confidence in God, and I thank God for all these people.
Perfect. We're going to go for a quick commercial break. When we return, we get to hear from Shamin. Shamin is going to be telling us how she was able to navigate all the negativity around her. Negativity of anxiety, fear, I am not good enough, and all what's not. Shamin, you're going to share with us how you were able to go through all of that after this break. Do not go away. And you're welcome back to ETV Ghana's African Women's Voices show. Before we went on the break, I said we're going to be speaking to Shamin. Shamin is going to be sharing with us how she was able to navigate all the negative energy around her, that of fear, anxiety, and all what's not. She will also get to share with us what the attributes of an overcomer actually is. I'm sure those attributes actually helped her to be able to navigate that. Shamin, are you there? Hello, Shamin.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so while we wait for her to get connected, are you here now?
Yes, I am. You
Okay,
hear me?
so please go ahead.
Yes, and for me to lead off on my sharing, I want to remind us of the title of my chapter, which is A Mission Fueled by God's Holy Spirit. Actually, this is my life, and this is what I use as my source of inspiration when I had to navigate all of these changes. And first of all, I wanted to share on those aspects of being an overcomer or a conqueror. And actually what I use as my guidepost is a word from the Apostle Paul to Timothy as he mentored him, right? And that encouragement is found in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. And Paul reminded, or he instructed Timothy, that God has not given you a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power, of love, and a sound mind. And those are the attributes that I use as encouragement and inspiration, because they are actually tools that you could use to empower yourselves, right? What happens with these tools? Having to understand that you have been given a spirit of power. It says to you that this God is able to see you through whatever the situation is. He's able to enable you because he is an enabling God. And so in that attribute of power, we ought to have the courage and the competence to get the job done. When we feel like we can't, we just remind ourselves that we were given, it's gifts given to us. We were given that gift of power. We were also given a gift of love, right? And getting a gift from God as love, we would all understand once you are in the Word and once you are in that relation, and those who are not, perhaps I could encourage you to get in that relation because God is love. He knows all about love. Love comes from him because it is established very clearly that he loved the whole world. It doesn't matter if you are in Ghana, it doesn't matter if you are in Trinidad and Tobago, or if you are in the USA or in Guyana, he loved the whole world and continues to love the people that he has given breath to. And so with that love that God, it allows us to connect with people because that love is powerful. If he gave it, he loved the world, and he gave us that love by allowing his only son to come and take, the place for the struggles that we would go through. His son also encountered those struggles, and that's great encouragement and empowerment for anyone to hold on to. And the other attribute that Paul gave to Timothy was the attribute of a sound mind. And that one is also very, very necessary for us to be able to overcome any situation that we encounter as we go about, the day-to-day runs of life and all of its issue. So that sound mind would give us the perspective and the wisdom to grasp a vision, right? And to take the right step. Because that's what limits us as well. Not being able to, we may have the vision, but not being able to take the right step. And that sound mind is going to help us to take that right step. I also want to share, about the lenses that hold us back. And those lenses, they are fear, anxiety, not good enough, location, where I am located. Here I am talking to you all the way from Trinidad and Tobago. So location is ought not to be an issue. You know, procrastination is another of those lenses that hold us, seek rather to hold us back. But what are we going to counteract those lenses, those behaviors through that lens is the utilizing the lens of faith, that walk, that trust. You know, we heard just a little earlier about a relationship with God, right? And so we use that lens of faith in God and understand that God will see you through as he saw me through. Powerful. What it did for me in all of the struggles, that lens of faith allowed me to pray more. It allowed me to meditate more, to read more, to dive into what more that God has for me. And it also allowed me to surround myself with material and persons who are able to give you what you need so as to take you from where you are to where you are desiring to go, where God desires for you to go.
Great.
And so that lens of faith is so necessary and important.
Thank you.
I look to him from whom my help comes. And that's where I keep my focus most of all. I also wanted to say, you know, speak of how I feel today, having gone through all the struggles. It in no way prevented me from going forward. And therefore, I count it all as joy. You know, I count it as a gift. I receive it as a gift because being on a mission, as you go through my chapter, you realize that I moved from this journey to that journey to the next journey. And all of it was a mission, just moving stage to stage. But now having to look back, I count it all as a gift. I receive it as a gift.
That's fantastic.
A blessing that really took me on this journey.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'll quickly move over to Dr. Gallo. Dr. Gallo, hello.
Hi, how are you guys?
We are all very good. And as you said earlier, you're feeling really good from South Africa, and it really shows all over you. We will be talking about your perspective around healing. What is your vision about healing? Looking at what you contributed in the book.
Okay, now awesome. So I've got my copy here of my book, and yeah, my chapter is actually called The Story Behind the Story. And I think it's important, you know, when we inspire women, that we share our stories so we can share all of that we've been through, challenges, the good, the bad, the ugly, and that's what's exciting. So as a medical practitioner, as a doctor, a healing journey has been difficult for me as well, due to finances before, but it's all the stories in the book. But, you know, my vision is to transform global healing by empowering the world with my holistic practices. What I look at is not only do I just give a person a medicine, we look at a more holistic procedure when we actually, you know, heal patients. And, you know, healing also comes from trauma, from PTSD, from your past. And also being a neuroscientist, I look at how we can holistically help patients with the mind power, looking at neuroscience techniques, unraveling what's happened. Let's just use gender-based violence, for example. You know, I've also had abuse in various forms, be it in business or past relationship. And then how do you use that neuroscience techniques to help heal the patients? So it's not just about providing that patient with the prescription of a medicine, and that is how I look at the healing and the vision and help a lot of patients. The other thing that we look at is, as I mentioned, is looking at the neuroscience techniques, helping them with exercises to go through everything. An important thing, we look at, you know, a prophylaxis, preventative. How can we prevent disease? Because, you know, we create disease for ourselves. So if we create disease, then we can obviously then heal ourselves. And that is the kind of way that we look at it. For example, gender-based violence or abuse, it stays into your cells, it's trauma, it's toxins. How do we then release these toxins from our body? Because this then causes causes disease. It causes things such as autoimmune disease. Autoimmune disease is when your body fights itself. That's because you're not loving yourself enough. It comes from, limiting beliefs that we have as women, especially being abused or whatever reasons we're not good enough. And that's what actually causes autoimmune diseases, cancers. So what we look at when I actually look at holistically and healing patients is to go back to that. How can we find love? Many doctors here and many of the other beautiful women mentioned loving yourself, looking at God. How can you then love yourself to actually be able to help you to heal? And my chapter is really exciting. It talks about many things from my journey, how I wanted to study medicine, couldn't afford it, got into the field eventually. It talks about romance, talks about challenges, talks about businesses, talks about empowerment, talks about how I've lost my businesses. So everything. So it's really exciting. I give 25 tips at the end to just help women, to just guide them through just quick tips, to just pointers, to just help you. And just before I end and conclude, I would like every woman to support each other, uplift each other through education, raising awareness, literacy, and training. And that is what healing is about. And in my book, I quoted something, I will just quote it again. It's Lokal Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. It's actually a Sanskrit meaning. And what it means is, may all beings everywhere be happy and free. And may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to that happiness and to the freedom for all. And that is what I look at healing the entire nation and people. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Gallo. That's quite exciting because it really summarizes the whole conversation around the power of collaboration, channeling, collaboration. A lot of times when people think that women cannot collaborate. See the beautiful thing all of you have been able to put together in this book. Our businesswoman, Tunisia, are you there? Tunisia?
Yes, I am.
Aha, don't worry. I wanted to actually save you, for the last, because when it comes to business, a lot of women are involved in one form of business or the other. Most women are entrepreneurs. They may not be large scale, but women are owning their own businesses. And I'm so happy that we had somebody who had something to share around business. So I would like you to just tell us exactly what valuable lessons you would want people to get out of the business side that you shared in the story.
Okay, thank you again for this opportunity. I believe as women, as you go through your various experiences, you can also use those same experiences and bring it to the business side. Because in order for us to excel in business, we must understand who we are as individuals. We must be able to identify our strengths, our weaknesses, and how we can be able to use those weaknesses, turn them into opportunities, and use those strengths to be able to expand and to monetize our gift, whatever potential we may have as women. We are very creative beings, and it's just for us to recognize that. In one way, I believe as women, we can recognize our strength, is spend time to reflect on who we really are. And one of the techniques that I use for that is journaling. I believe, over time when we were much younger, we always would write letters and so on. As adults, as women in business, we can use the same idea. Journal the way we think, journal how we feel, those bottled emotions. Once we are able to put them down on paper, then we can develop a plan as to where we want to go with what we would have placed on that paper. And what it does also, as you journal, you're able to lessen the impact. That tension, as you write, if for example, let's say you're angry and you journal that emotion, eventually that anger gradually reduces and you no longer feel that stress and tension. So for me, journaling is one way as a business person, the same way you journal your thoughts and your ideas as it relates to your goals you want to do in business. And then you put it into a framework and develop a plan.
Wow, fantastic. You know, you ladies have all been phenomenal, and I am really, really hungry to get a lot more people to read the book. Seriously, all what you've shared have been so inspiring. I have actually lots and lots of more questions to ask, but I think I'm going to have to leave that to the readers because they need to know about the book launch and how they can get the book and then get to really understand where you're coming from as you share your story. So, Dr. Abuaji, could you take us through the details around when the book is going to be launched and where?
Thank you very much. So we are launching the book on Sunday, the 4th of December. It's going to be at the Snit Guest House, and the time is 4 p.m. It's going to be exciting. There'll be a lot to listen to and enjoy. So come and help us as we launch the book. After the launch, you can get the book by calling 0246 919 542. 0246 919 542. You can either call or send a WhatsApp and then we'll attend to you.
Great. So to end the session, because I mean, I never thought 1 hour could be so short, but we've been able to do 1 hour so quickly. I would like Grace to round up for us. Please tell us what will be the takeout from this session, especially talking to women around collaboration and connecting with each other, you know, the power of networking within us as women. If you can just share that within a few seconds so that we can just wrap up.
Yeah, you know, as a woman, your story is your voice. And also your story is your power. Your story is your brand. With the gender-based violence, every woman should empower herself by sharing her story and by using her voice to also empower or inspire other women. And so we are here as vessels that God has used, and we are calling every woman to the table. And for me, what I'm really concerned about as a coach is to let women overcome that self-sabotage and that fear that I'm not good enough. And we have a lot of giftings and we have a lot of talents that we are wasting. I was just here listening to everyone, and how I remember calling Dr. Rosemond on the phone one time, and I said, you have to share this story, your story, because I went to the same school with Rosemond and I saw how she went through her education. And I said, somebody out there is waiting to hear your story so that it can give them hope, for them to know that where I am now, there is a future for me to move on with my life. And so if every of us are able to come out bold as women and hone our voice with that power that we have, I'm telling you, nobody will be able to look down on us and the fact to even beat us or devalue us. Because with your story, it defines who you are, and you're able to see the value in you. Have we all not been empowered by sharing our story or what you heard all the ladies saying? And you can do it too. All we did was to identify that value in our stories and that hone our voice to be here to share it. And so we are calling all women to come on the table. Let's hold each other's hand, as Dr. Gallo said, and let's empower each other with the help of the Holy Spirit. With our God-based faith, we can do it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Ladies, I have to take leave of you. However, we all need to connect definitely on socials, okay? So let's inbox each other because we need to do this more individually to get you on the show back so you could talk a lot more about other issues that are pressing to women. I need to wrap up right away, and I'd like to say a very big thank you to all those who contributed on our Facebook page. Bernard, Naomi Kweku, you said they are amazing women. Moses Niama says, hi. Mami T. Botre says, awesome. Mami T comes back and says, Rosemond Abuaji and team, you've done amazing sharing your story. Bra Kofi says, Miss Rosie. Abrewa Nana Kwame Napo says, may it impact lives. And a lot more are also tripping in. I want to say a very big thank you once again to you all, ladies. Please, those of you watching me from wherever it is, please do enjoy the rest of our interesting lineup for you. Bye-bye.